All right, exercise 3L, compound interest. Here we go, review of what we did last year. Compound interest, remember, interest is paid not just on the principal, but on any interest that has already previously been earned. You can see here the example they give, $100 at 10% over 2 years. In the first year, 10% of 100 is $10. You get $10 interest, you've now got $110. In the next year, rather than getting 10% of 100, you get 10% of 110, gives you $11 interest instead of 10. Increases a little bit faster than the simple interest where it's always just off the original principal. You can see they've got a rule here. I tend to use a slightly different version. The total amount equals the principal, 1 plus the interest rate as a decimal, n is the number of years. That's for annual compounding periods. What's the other fancy name for a compounding period? Rests. So a rest is how often something compounds in a year. So monthly rests would be 12 times per year. Weekly rests, 52 times per year. Quarterly, 4 times per year. Semi-annually, twice per year, etc. So the other formula, other version of the same formula I like to use is the total amount equals the principal, 1, my stylus is really not behaving, plus I divided by R, where R is the number of rests. My goodness, now it looks at least more like a 1. And then multiplied by the number of compounding periods, which is the number of years times the number of rests. I find that most students working with that formula have a lot of success, so I recommend you go ahead and use this formula rather than thinking about each time, oh, it's the interest rate per compounding period and the number of compounding periods. Just keep it as the interest rate as a decimal per year, divide it by how often it compounds per year. Number of years multiplied by how often it compounds, you're going to be all right. Let's have a look at a worked example here. Determine the amount after 5 years if 4,000 is compounded annually at 8%. It's going to let me insert some space so I can do my working. Doesn't hurt to write out what you know. The principal, well, that's $4,000. That's the original amount borrowed or invested. In this case, it sounds like it's being invested. Total amount, that's what I'm trying to find out. So I don't know that yet. Number of years equals 5. The interest rate, 0.08. Remember, write it as a decimal. We can all write 8% as a decimal. Number of rests per year is 1, so it's just using the easy version of the formula. Try and persevere with my terrible stylus here. That says R equals 1. All right, let's see how we go. So the total amount is my principal, 4,000, multiplied by 1, plus 0.08. Well, I can just write 1.08. Finish the circle there. All to the power of 5. Now it's up to you to push buttons on your calculator and get an answer. Luckily, I actually have a calculator with me. I planned ahead today. 4,000 bracket 1.08 bracket to the power of 5. $5,877 and 31 cents. If ever it lets me write 31. Now that should really say approximately equal to, because it wasn't exactly that. There's my dollar sign. We've got the right answer there. The X to the Y button, if you want to raise something to a power rather than just squaring it or cubing it, that's what enabled me to go 1.08. That button and then 5 will raise it to the power of 5. So that's on your calculator. For those who haven't come across that before, that's how you do that. One for you to try. Pause the video, have a go, and then check back in a few seconds. And checking your answer there, $4,502.19. Converting rates and time periods, so this is just getting you to do the little bit before we get to the whole thing. What would 6% over 4 years, calculate the number of periods and the rate of interest offered per period. This is just getting you to practice that I divided by R and N times R. You don't really need to do this because we've built it into our formula, but we can do it anyway. If this is going to be paid monthly, so the number of periods for 4 years, that's just your N times R. For some reason it doesn't want me to use the pen. Number of periods, N times R, so it was 4 years, 12 periods per year, equals 48. And the stylus is really making this difficult for you, but luckily you guys are amazing. And the interest rate per period, I divided by R, 6% divided by 12 would be 0.5%. So I'm not sure whether they want you to write that as 0.5%. But, oh my goodness. But we, of course, would write that as 0.005, because when we're putting numbers into equations, we can't have them as percentages. We need to have them as numbers, so we can do that. We'll leave out those bits. That's pretty straightforward. We really want to get down to the example of, can we do this for compounding amounts? Anthony's investment of $4,000 is compounded at 8.4% over a period of, just trying to insert some more space there, 5 years. Determine the amount after 5 years if interest is paid monthly. So, I'm still trying to determine the amount. Principal is $4,000. The interest rate, 8.4%. Write that as a decimal, 0.084. Number of years is 5. The number of rests, how often is it compounding per year? It's compounding monthly, so that's 12. So your total amount is your principal, 1 plus I over R. Oh my goodness. I'm really sorry about this, guys. Unfortunately, because the lease is running up on these computers at the end of this year, we're having to persevere even though things are starting to fall over. That's my rule. Let's fill in the blanks. I'm sure you can still follow it. Just pause and take your time. You'll be right. So the principal was $4,000. 1 plus 0.084. Oh, some of that nearly worked. Divided by 12. All to the power of 5 times 12. Now, if you type that in on your calculator like that, using the brackets, that's going to work fine. If you want to simplify it a little bit first, you can. 4,000. 0.084 divided by 12 is 0.007, so that's 1.007. And 5 12s are 60. So the final amount is approximately equal to, get my dollar sign happening, 4,000, 1.007 to the power of 60. So it's a very small number, 1.007, but raising it to a power that many times is going to have a significant effect. I'm getting $6,078.95 to the nearest cent. $6,078.95. So that's how you do it when the period is not just annually, when it's compounding over different periods of time. There's one there for you to try. Then get stuck into the exercise. I'm going to go and scrounge around and look for another stylus, and hopefully it'll work a little bit better in the next video. Thanks for persevering with that one. Keep up the great work, guys. Bye for now.